Schutzsalz, donde estuvo desde 1989 y hasta 1994, donde trabajó en labores de exportación, ventas y marketing. Quizá es lo que más nos puede interesar desde el punto de vista de los intereses de quienes aquí estamos. Desde 1995 es directora general de Sal Costa y ha desarrollado diferentes funciones en diferentes áreas de esta compañía, y ahora pues sigue ligada a las áreas de ventas y marketing. Así que escuchémosla en su presentación, que alguien deberá poner en marcha.
Soy Ariane Forster, directora general de Sal Costa, una empresa que produce sal marina desde hace más que 100 años. Aquí en Barcelona, Sal Costa es una marca muy conocida, pero durante los últimos 15 años también ganamos distribución fuera de Cataluña, especialmente en la zona de Madrid, donde la marca ahora también está bien establecida. Y desde hace 1994, Sal Costa forma parte de Schutzsalz, un grupo alemán de uno de los productores de sal más grandes en Europa. Por casualidad, había un artículo en el periódico alemán de Handelsblatt con una noticia sobre trend. Llamó mi atención, lo busqué en internet y me apunté como trendiana para entender cómo funcionan las campañas de WOM. Y tuve suerte porque dentro de poco me seleccionaron para participar en una campaña. Después de acabar esta campaña, yo fui tan convencida de este tipo de...
I've done a few conferences here and there. Is this working? No? Yeah, now it is. Brilliant. I've done conferences now and again, and a room like this is seldom to find. Particularly what I like is that it's open to the back. That makes for some noise apparently, but other than that I really love the open atmosphere here, and I love that there's so many people. So thanks for this. I thought it would be fun to speak about kind of where we come from and how far we made it with the work that we do. And TND started in 2005, and I remember back then sort of the idea was, this is such a great idea, we'll be rich in a year. It's going to be so easy. I mean, who can be against getting passionate consumers talking about brands? That's a no-brainer. Everybody's going to love that. Well, 2005, you know, is a long time ago, if you think in terms of consumers communicating on behalf of brands. Nowadays, we sit here, and many of you might think, yeah, you know, that kind of makes sense in the age of Facebook, etc. When we started with TND, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter. People started to do blogging. You know, this is a long time ago. So it's quite amazing for me to see nowadays that we've made it to 16 countries with what we do. And I just got a number this morning, which I think is interesting, and I wanted to share it. One of our bigger clients actually in the last year invested 1.6 million in word-of-mouth marketing with us. So, you know, this is no longer kids stuff. We believe it never was, but, you know, we spent many years going to clients and having them say, oh yeah, we'll do a little test here, or we'll try this. And this number shows me that we've grown way beyond that. And I think, you know, that for us, and for the Spanish team, that's been the first one to go to a new country. We started with this in Germany, and Spain was the first market where we went and said, let's try this outside of Germany. You know, this is reassuring to know that we are starting to really get to a point where people understand that this is part of what marketing should be doing in a very sort of serious way. And if I look at the history of where we come from, there was actually one thing that did make life for a while, and maybe still today, actually interestingly fairly difficult for us. It's that. Again, in 2005 there was no social media. There was maybe Web 2.0. Some of you might remember that social media used to be called Web 2.0. Until it became this. But there was none of that, and we thought this would be convincing. And then things like Facebook and Twitter happened, and for a while we thought, this makes our life complicated, because clients kept saying, we want some Facebook stuff. And for a while, I actually really had a hard time understanding what that was all about. And I will tell you why I had a hard time understanding this with a little analogy, with a little story. To me, Facebook is like a big, very, very popular bar outside the city where everybody goes. You know, on a Saturday night, fucking hell, you can't move in the place, it's so crowded. It's a really, you know, massively packed place, and everybody in town knows on Saturday night, that's where people go out to have fun. And so that's Facebook, you know. That's where people hang out, where they chat with their friends. So what do brands do? They say, we have to be there. We have to bring our banner, and we have to book a table, and we put a little flag on the table with our logo on it, and we'll sit there and we'll invite people to our table. Maybe if you come up with the crazy idea, people will actually come. And then you have those people sitting around your table, and you might even be able to talk to them for a while until they go to the bar or go to, you know, to the toilet or go to talk to that beautiful girl over there who ends up being more interesting than you, I'm afraid, you know, and you will understand. So it's this big bar, but what I don't understand is why brands were starting to actually neglect their own bar. If the online world, if social media allow us to create spaces, virtual spaces, where people come together and hang out and behave like in a bar, don't you want to have your own bar? What happens if the guy who runs the big club that's so successful and so exciting just one day says, I don't like your face. You're not going to have a table anymore because I feel that way in the morning. Or because there's some new rule that I put in and you're not listening to that rule, you're not following the rule. So this to me is a bit of a mystery that so much trust and so much money is put into a bar that you don't own. So we feel like, you know, people should be running their own bars for their own people and get them to their place and make sure that, you know, whatever they invest stays with the people that really care about you in a way that is much more meaningful and much more powerful than a click or a like. So, you know, you can give a lot of money to that guy, but I would probably spend more money on this. And now I'm not saying that Facebook and Twitter and so forth are not interesting for marketing. By all means, don't get me wrong, these are powerful platforms and they are valuable for marketing, except they're not where the action happens. The action should happen where you are, and you can go to those places to invite people to your bar. Set up that table in Facebook, in the bar, and have people come and say, maybe you want to check out our bar. It's a little less crowded, but the food is better. And we know you personally. Come on by. So what we now would say, strategically, is yes, absolutely, be on Facebook, be there, but use these platforms to collect the people who want to work with you, who act like the fans that we heard about in these campaigns. Now, if we talk about investments, you know, we sometimes get the question of 100,000 euros? Why should I leave that with you and not put it in TV like I've always done? That's a very valid question. Well, one reason is TV looks a little like that. You know, we all know where it's going. It's not getting better. It's still strong, but the times are changing, and I think it's better to know before the crisis really hits with reaching people what to do about your marketing before it happens. But now, of course, the argument is something like this. You know, I need millions. TV gives me millions. you know, you're running campaigns with 5,000 people, what's that going to do? Well, you have all seen this, right? The funnel. You need to get a lot of people through this so that finally at the end of the day, some of them end up here and are loyal customers and come and buy again and bring you referrals and bring you new consumers and help you, you know, with a wonderful customer lifetime value. How do you get there? You start with, you know, those that have your awareness. Many know your brand maybe, but not all of them need it. So there's a smaller group of people that need your brand and is maybe willing to actually go look for it in the supermarket. On the way there, or maybe already in the supermarket, they do what Google calls, they experience the ZMOT, the zero moment of truth. So the moment before where they're kind of trying to get orientation and figure out what all of that product category is about. And then there's the first moment of truth. Again, this is the Proctor term. The first moment of truth is the shelf in the supermarket. Do I take the product and put it in my trolley or do I not? That's the first moment of truth. And then they get to the second moment of truth when they actually experience the product at home. The first moment of truth decides whether I'm actually going to take the product and buy it, and the second one decides whether I'm going to come back. Because of course, if I test it at home and I just don't like the taste, I'm not going to buy again. Now, if you are going for the millions on TV, you start here. You start with awareness. You start to talk to everyone you can possibly reach and try to get them closer. But you all know that you're talking to lots and lots of people who don't need you, who don't want you. So this is already lost. And then it keeps going on. You know, some of them might go to the ZMOT stage, some of them might actually go to the supermarket and look for it, and then experience it. And then finally get into the loyalty loop. Now, we don't need millions because we don't start here. We start right there. When you run a word-of-mouth campaign, and I think the examples illustrated this, you get people directly to the second moment of truth, to the experience. There's samples, there's sharing, there's joint companionship around the product, people having fun with your product right there. They're experiencing it, and they can make up their minds right now. So you basically jumped across all of this right to that point. And then there's more word of mouth, which is more about awareness when there's no product experience, but it still helps people with orientation. So essentially, we run a campaign with 5,000 people, we reach 1 million people with it, and that's a small number compared to the 18 million you might reach with TV, but it makes sense because it's a different approach. And that's why, you know, I was very happy about what we saw in the video, that someone who's doing this sees it the same way. And also what you said, as much as I could understand, my Spanish is non-existent really, but I speak Italian a little, so I get an idea. And you know, we know that it works. We've shown in cases that we can lift sales, toothpaste, drinks. We have the data and we can provide the data again, but I think this is an interesting insight, that we don't attack the market at the same spot where mass media TV commercial does, and not in the same way. Now, we started as a company that was entirely focused on putting word of mouth into the marketing mix. We are slowly starting to move beyond this and to answer a number of challenges that marketers might have. And it's really interesting, I think, that we are learning the way we work with our participants, how consumers can do a great number of things for you simply because they're engaged and they're involved and they're actively participating in a marketing process. So I have a number of typical questions that we answer, typical challenges that we address. One of them would be this. You will notice that this has not a lot to do with word-of-mouth marketing where people speak to other people. This has to do with the type of exchange that you have with your consumers. And some companies come to us and say, you know, I can do focus groups with 8 people. I can do 6 of them, so I speak to 6 times 8 people. But can I make this bigger? One example. Or, and I have the impression that this happens more often than people might want to admit. Some brands have these massive consumer relationship marketing databases. But honestly, they often just don't know what to do with it. You know, you can do another sweepstakes where people can win a prize, but hell, how many of those do you want to do? Or send a discount coupon. So that's another question that we sometimes get. Or, this one I love. You know, some brands invest 2 million euros in an online community that is going to be the cornerstone of their online strategy for the next 3 years, and after 2 years it's dead. And we talk to companies that have these issues. Or, this is a typical one. This is an aspect of word of mouth, and it's one that, you know, that is not easy to address if you don't know how to get the right people talking and posting and doing the stuff that they love to do. And this is another example that we've had. It works, but honestly, on your platform, it's only of limited interest to me. I want to do the stuff that you do with consumers, not on your platform. I want to do it on mine. And I have examples for all of these. The first one, here's something that we did both in Spain and in Germany for Philips. Philips really wanted to figure out whether or not to launch a certain product in a certain market. It's confidential, so I can't talk about the details. These were secret projects that we run on our platforms that you can actually see if you're not part of the project. We talked to 1,500 people. We discuss advertising concepts with them, ask them about their feedback, and summarize all of their input to the brand and for the brand. So rather than discussing concepts with 8 people in a room behind the mirror like you would do, we do it with 1,500 for you. So this is the kind of stuff that we've learned how to do. Another example is this one. Now here I can't even say the brand because no brand was going to say we don't have a clue as to what we're doing. But one of the world's largest consumer brands got help from us for this. To use their brand, to use their database in a way that is way more effective for them by running the types of programs that we run. And these programs don't even happen on our trnd platform. They happen on a platform that they own and operate, and we put our software into it. It's very easy to integrate, and then we can start running these projects, also projects like for Philips, on their platform. Engage people and discuss with them the future of the brand, because that's what people love to do. You will be surprised how much people like to actually speak to brands. We looked at statistics the other day, and we found that in our campaigns, in one of the countries that we're in, the newsletters that get the most clicked on, that we send to our participants in the projects to motivate them to do certain things, are the ones where we invite them to fill out surveys. People want their opinion to be heard. It's important to them that a brand is listening and that the brand takes them seriously. This one's easy. This one is P&G. We ran campaigns with P&G, particularly in Germany, and at some point they said, listen, it's all nice with your database, but we have our own, and our database is bigger than yours. And we would like to use that database to run word-of-mouth programs. Can you do that? And when Procter & Gamble asks, you deliver. You don't say, nah, no, go somewhere else. No, we made it happen, and now we make it happen across 7 countries. And, you know, there'll be more. This one is interesting also. The question wasn't exactly phrased that way, but we are working very closely with the German publishing house Gruner & Jahr. They are one of the biggest magazine publishers in Europe. And they came to us to get a solution to integrate word-of-mouth programs into their print advertising. Gruner & Jahr are very powerful in selling print ads in different types of magazines. Now they sell print ads in magazines that say, brand XYZ wants to run a project and needs 3,000 people who want to participate. And they go to this website that we run for Gruner & Jahr, they sign up, they take part in the program, like the way we run them, and at the end, besides them generating word of mouth, we get quotes and verbatims from participants, we get their opinions, their votes, etc., and bring those votes again to the ads in the magazines. So we have an integrated project in which print advertising and word of mouth are completely connected. So that's what we do for these guys. That one is the last example I have for today. We've done this many times, and currently we're doing it, for instance, for Vichy, and not only in one market, but in at least 2. And we're planning a campaign with a client who might want to be identified or not, but who does it in 6 countries with us soon, which we're extremely excited about. So again, having this infrastructure, having these competencies, having this knowledge and this know-how in all of these markets from one team that works together, that is connected through a joint infrastructure, makes us, I think, surprisingly powerful in the way we can organize these things. And I think, maybe to sort of sum it up a little, I have a little story. I've told this sometime. I don't know if I've told this in Spain before. My colleagues will tell me if I have. But it's a story that, to me, again, explains how the way we do marketing works. And it's a story from my father. My father was in politics in the 70s and 80s in Germany. More in the 70s than in the 80s. And he was at first in local politics in our town, and then in regional politics, and then even in national politics. But when he was still a local politician, he went with a delegation from our town to Sweden. You know, for an exchange with other politicians there. They were talking about different things. Particularly one project was a social housing project. And in the social housing project, you know, the Swedes being very advanced with social issues, they showed the social housing project, and it was all very impressive, but one thing was missing. And so my father turned to the guy that was leading them around and showing them everything and explaining stuff and said, this is all extremely impressive, but there's one thing that I don't understand. There's the street, and there's the parking lot, and there's the playground, and there's the garage, and there's the houses here and there and everywhere. But where are people supposed to walk? There are no pathways to get people to the houses. And the guy from Sweden said, oh, that's easy. We have the lawn, we put out the lawn, and we watch for a season where they walk. And then when we see where they walk, that's where we put the pathways. My father said, that's lovely. What a simple, great idea. So he returns home. My father likes, you know, can get enthusiastic about things, maybe like myself. And he came back to our hometown and talked to the guy in charge. You know, getting the people who are living there to show us the way, because they know best. And the guy, you know, being a German, very rules and everything, was sitting behind his desk and said, excuse me, but where people walk, that is up to us to decide. And I think this little story explains a little the difference between the way marketing will evolve in the future and the way marketing has been done in the past. When there was no back channel, when there was powerful, single-minded media reaching every person in the country in ways that built mega brands, it made sense to decide the message. It made sense to design it and push it out and to create a holistic brand image that way. It made perfect sense. But we're leaving that universe. Nowadays, I believe it makes sense to get help from consumers and see where they walk and do some of the things because of what consumers are teaching you and showing you. And I think we have moved beyond just running word-of-mouth marketing campaigns where people speak to other people, which drive sales and has all of these effects. We've moved to a place where we can engage consumers, work with them, and learn from them in these ways. And I think that is probably the most exciting thing about our work. And that is kind of what I was planning to say tonight. Thank you so much.
Bueno, muchas gracias a Martín. Una buena idea de los suecos. Aquí funciona, pero nadie se fijaría para luego hacerlos, para asfaltar los caminos, estarían llenos de barro. Bueno, vamos a tener la sesión, I was telling that here in Spain, they wouldn't do the pathways, they do the plenty of mud over there. Vamos a tener la sesión de preguntas, así que invito a Jens, si quiere subir. Íñigo, no sé si te tienes que ir o... 2 minutos, bueno, pues si alguien se ha quedado con muchas ganas de preguntarle algo a Íñigo, tienes oportunidad, Jens, por favor, y no sé si Sven, quieres... si queréis preguntarles a James o Martin, y podéis hacer en inglés, lógicamente, si no, yo intentaré traducirlo. Así que son vuestros, aquí los tenéis. ¿Alguna pregunta? Yo tengo una. ¿La puedo hacer? Can I make a question? You can Martin, yes. Perhaps both of you could answer it, both. Have you ever worked in a word-of-mouth project with an advertiser, alongside or in some way, at the same time, in conjunction with the advertising agency before something is launched? There's been some co-work in that field, or do you have also worked in a separate way with them?
It's a good question. It's one that we've been speaking with advertising agencies for a very long time, ever since we started, and we found that what we do is quite alien to them, and that's because, and I think it's like that for a good reason. Advertising agencies are built to attract people who want to work on making brands look great, right? That's what advertising does. It makes brands look in a way that's so appealing, so attractive, that consumers say, I need to go closer to that. That brand needs to be part of my life. So it's about making brands look amazing. You could say putting them on a stage. Putting them on a stage, shining the light on them and making them look amazing, like you would make a superstar. The thing is, what we do works very differently, because we can't put the brand in the focus, because then people would say, well, what is my role? So what we do is we put the consumer on stage. And it's a very different job, putting 5,000 consumers on their little stages and giving them stuff to talk about and to share and to feel great about, to, I think someone of you said, to shine with, than to do that with the brand. Because actually, when you are doing this with consumers, you need to be really, really, really interested in people. Now, I'm sure you agree, most art directors and copywriters, etc., they don't need to be interested in people. That's not their job. Their job is to be interested in being powerful with media. So it's a very different job that we do. Now, that was a long intro, and now I'm answering your question. We've done a couple of projects, but they're not easy. And we find that if we ask an advertising agency to work on something that helps us recruit maybe participants into a campaign that works on outdoor, and that talks about the brand in such a way that people understand, okay, I want to go to that website and become part of this project, it's not an easy process. I don't know, Sven, if you have anything to add. Yeah, so same experience here. I wish there were more agencies that said to us, wow, that's cool stuff, can we become part of this? So any agency people in the room, please.
Pues nada, te preguntaba, perdonad que no lo he dicho, si habían trabajado con alguna agencia de publicidad. Él comentaba que el papel de la agencia de publicidad es poner la marca en el escenario, hacerla brillante, no le importa tanto a la gente, mientras que precisamente ellos lo que quieren es que si ellos hicieran eso, la gente diría, no, somos nosotros los que debemos poner la marca en el escenario. Y entonces, en ese sentido, dice que han trabajado en algunas ocasiones con agencias de publicidad, pero que no ha sido fácil porque la mentalidad es muy diferente, ¿no? La agencia de publicidad trata de hacer brillar la marca en los medios, es el trabajo creativo y de estrategia, y el trabajo que ellos hacen, como nos han explicado, pues es bastante diferente. Es básicamente a través de las personas, que son las protagonistas de lo que ellos hacen, y el trabajo publicitario puro desde la agencia no está tan interesado, sobre todo desde la agencia creativa, pues no está tan interesado en las personas. Bueno, ¿alguna pregunta por vuestra parte? Sí.
Ya que, hola. Bueno, animar un poco el cotarro, ya habláis mucho del boca a boca y de las marcas, y me gustaría conocer la opinión, y una marca, no soy de Mercadona y tampoco soy de Apple, y la pregunta venía por ¿qué piensan de una marca como Apple que se ha construido con el boca a boca, o cuál es el futuro de Apple, por ejemplo?
¿Preguntas a alguien en concreto?
Bueno, a los cuatro, alguien que quiera, porque es algo que tiene que ver mucho con el boca a boca, con la experiencia, con Movistar, con...
Muy bien.
Por animar.
Hay un especialista para esto. What's the future of Apple?
Yeah, he says that he says that the Apple brand has been built a lot with using word of mouth.
Okay.
And what do you think is the future for such brand?
Yes. Maybe just as a little, I don't know if this works. As a little story, when Apple was getting big, Martin was one of the biggest fan of Apple. So back 5, 6, 7 years, he was everything. The new iPhone, you know, the old, the big thing there, and then the Apple, the computers. And then a few years ago, he turned away and said, no, no, I changed my mind. So that's why he has to answer, because it's like he was a brand ambassador of Apple and changed a few years.
First of all, I didn't realize that I have this image, so this is news to me. Second, now of course everybody wants to know that, right? Because I think the question you are asking is a bigger question than just about word of mouth. It's a question about ultimately corporate culture. What we do comes very, very late in the process. When we work with brands, everything has been done. The product has been packaged, it has been designed. We are changing that slowly, but that's what we do. Now, if we look at Apple, we always knew that Apple would never need us, because Apple started thinking that into their products from the beginning. And I think at the end of the day, the obsessiveness, the obsession of Steve Jobs, who had this strong hold on his company and who could influence every last decision, was the most powerful factor to create products that go beyond the ordinary, beyond the things that people had learned to accept from other brands. And I think that enabled them to stand out in such a way that people said they're just in a different league. Now, two things happened. One, other brands learned from Apple, right? Other brands have started to say, we need to rethink our packaging. We need to make products that people will love to simply touch. Brands looked closely at what Apple was doing and said, where can we be better than them? And Steve Jobs is no longer there. And maybe those two things combined make it difficult, but it's a brilliant question because it aims at the core of word of mouth. And at the end of the day, word of mouth comes from the products that you make. We can help, and we understand processes, and we can make things happen that will support word of mouth. But ultimately, the potential must lie in the product. And there was someone who was obsessed, like a maniac, about the products. And he was at the head of the company. You know, in other companies at the head there is a numbers guy, or there's a marketing guy, or there's a guy who's, I don't know, is maybe an engineer. But this is probably the only company where the guy at the top was absolutely fucking crazy about the products that they made. He made every single product so that he would actually want to use it at home. Now, I ask you, if you go to the head of Nestle, or the head of, I don't know, well, Procter & Gamble, I'm not so sure. Do they use all of the products that they make? So, I think this is a question about corporate culture, and it's one that is extremely relevant for this, because in the long run, if you want, you know, this is not very smart what I'm saying now, but I don't always need to be smart. If every company worked like Apple in that respect, in terms of how can we make products that are just really different and better different, maybe also not make them with Chinese workers who commit suicide for making them, that's something that we should be thinking about, but still, make products that way, marketing would no longer need us probably. But I think it would be much more fun for consumers, wouldn't it? So, I don't know if I answered your question, but it's a good one.
Thank you.
¿Alguna más? Sí, aquí.
Hola, buenas tardes. de los ejemplos que habéis puesto y algunos otros que he visto en la web, da la sensación de que está muy centrado, o por lo menos son los ejemplos que habéis puesto, en lanzamientos. Pero ¿hasta qué punto es más una herramienta que te permite ver cosas que te pueden interesar como en un lanzamiento de un producto que desconoces, o más como una herramienta del marketing mix, un producto estándar, un producto normal en su periodo normal de vida?
Most of the examples that have been shown are about launching new products. This is if you also can, if word of mouth can be used also as a regular tool in the marketing process, in the regular marketing process.
El hecho de que hayamos trabajado mucho en lanzamientos responde sobre todo porque en el marketing hay mucho presupuesto para lanzamientos. Por lo cual muchas veces la mayoría de los briefs que recibimos es tenemos un lanzamiento, tenemos que hacer algo. But did you measure any campaign which was not made for product launches? Because we also did a lot of campaigns that were not for product launches. Because the concept of something that's new is different if it's in the head of somebody from the marketing or a consumer. I have launched my product 3 years ago, but I only have 10% penetration. So 90% of my consumer maybe saw a spot on TV but never tried me. The product is new for them. So the word of mouth is working exactly the same way. But I know it's... Did you measure anything regarding...
So I can remember a product... So yeah, it was a home cleaning product that's been on the market for a while, and it had a very incremental innovation. So it was more or less that you had a longer grip, so you could reach other things. And the interesting thing is that you can catch a target group that finds completely new ways using an old product, and educating all their environment and talking about that they never thought about using it that way. And it really works. You just need to have at least a little idea about how to communicate, how to engage them with a product that is on the market since a while, or you need to find the right people that are engaging and have contact with people that don't know the product, is not familiar to them. So yes, it's possible.
You know, you will always, in most cases, have a penetration that's lower than 100%. So there's always people who are not using your product. Now it might be that they're not using their product because they just don't need it. But it might be that it's just the kind of product that people walk past in the supermarket without realizing it. They have their pathways that they take, they kind of know what they're getting, they might experiment with this or that, but it's just a category, just not seeing it. And if you go to those people and say, how about this? They might say, oh, interesting, right. And the learning for me is that innovation is subjective. We tend to think that product is old and that product is new. From your perspective of when it was launched, that is absolutely correct. But for some people, a product that's 10 years old might be really new because they've never used it. And they just need the trigger, you know, to try it. All of a sudden they have an experience that they weren't expecting. So we can definitely find the people that will appreciate the product, or we find people who are already using it and who are loving it, and we give them more chance to speak.
Perdona, y en esa línea, en función de la situación del producto, ¿vosotros cambiáis la selección del pan?
Lo más importante de nuevo es entender el briefing de la marca en cuanto a quién quiero llegar. Por lo cual nosotros lo que hacemos es buscamos un canal de comunicación que no necesariamente es el target, pero que sí va a llegar a las personas a las cuales queremos comunicar. Entonces tenemos ejemplos de necesitamos mujeres con pelo liso, rubio, en el norte de España, hasta los que les gusta mucho la cocina, pero que la sal tiene que ser algo muy especial. Entonces, creo que hoy lo que hemos intentado hacer es decir que existen técnicas para encontrar y activar consumidores en embajadores de marca, y estas reglas son generales. Ahora las especificidades si tú tienes un target donde tú piensas que gente puede comprar un producto, pues eso puede llegar ahí. Lo que sí necesitamos es lo que nosotros hemos visto, es lo que se llama más bien un efecto wow. Que sea algo porque el producto es nuevo, porque es disruptivo, por la marca, por algo. El word of mouth o las recomendaciones naturales vienen porque el consumidor prueba algo y dice, wow, es bueno. Entonces, en las campañas donde vamos a inducir estas recomendaciones, necesitamos exactamente el mismo ejemplo. ¡Wow! Mira, pruébalo. ¡Wow! Eso es bueno. Si hemos encontrado esto, podemos hacer publicidad a través de boca a boca. Si no existe el concepto wow, si el producto no es bueno, es mejor hacer publicidad tradicional y cambiar el producto.
Gracias.
¿Alguna más? Voy a terminar yo. The last question. So, but you go to clients and say, well, our product, trnd is wonderful. You may use it for your, you may use it to test and create word of mouth around your new products and so on. There are certain people who buy your product. That was great for you. Happens a lot. And there was, I suppose, there were also people who said, we don't buy your product. So why? What's the reason they give you for not buying word of mouth, not exactly your product? Estaba preguntando si la gente que no les compra el producto, que no les convence, qué argumentos les da para ello, porque no les interesa el word of mouth como herramienta de marketing.
Tenemos una lista impresionante, pero creo que viene de lo que es la historia, y creo que cuando has empezado también es la incredulidad. No se paga la gente, no se puede controlar, tengo miedo, el online es más importante, eso no es masivo, me cuesta mucho, demasiado. Pues es una lista que cada uno puede decir por qué no hacerlo, sobre todo porque no nos atrevemos a decir, yo voy a dejar la palabra que he tenido, el poder que he tenido como responsable de marketing a dirigir lo que quiero decir de mi marca a través de mis spots, y lo voy a poner dentro de un consumidor que va a decir lo que él ha entendido de lo que quería comunicar. Y la mayoría de los responsables de marketing que van a perder el control. ¿Cómo se puede hacer para que sea medible, reproducible, que no vaya mal? No, vamos a hacer un spot. Porque luego, si compran, no es mí, es la persona del trade que no habrá hecho bien su promoción y es su problema. Yo he hecho GRPs y no es mi jefe. Pero quizá podemos preguntar a ti, porque lo interesante es que un director de marketing que dice quiero hacerlo, tiene que pelear internamente también. Y quiere a su jefe que dice, no, ¿cómo has hecho tú?
No le pregunté. Sinceramente no le pregunté porque era una apuesta la primera vez. Y lo que fui con las, insisto, es un ejercicio espectacular, con las claves, porque evidentemente el seguimiento lo puedes hacer online, tú estás dentro de la comunidad y observas lo que están diciendo los consumidores. La reacción de mi jefe cuando le conté y se metió fue espectacular. Como poder hacer seguimiento de consumidores en tiempo real hablando de tu marca, para bien y para mal. Fuimos osados al contratar trnd, pero al final quien no, frase típica, pero quien no arriesga no gana.
Bueno, pues a la 1, a las 2 y a las 3. Es ya la hora, además. Un millón de gracias, gracias por venir, gracias por la participación y gracias a trnd por ser. Ellos sí han sido osados de ponerse en mis manos para conducir esta jornada. Espero no haberla llevado al desastre. Así que de verdad muchas gracias a todos. Gracias. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Jess.
Una última palabra, lo que hicimos en las zonas anteriores vamos a hacer otro. Nos vamos a hacer llegar un email donde vamos a preguntar un par de preguntas si el formato os ha gustado o no, porque bueno, no somos especialistas de organizar eventos, no somos especialistas, sabemos hacer que la gente hable. Entonces, si nos podéis ayudar a entender lo que podemos mejorar la próxima vez, y como lo has dicho bien, gracias a todos, pero sobre todo a vosotros de haber venido y hasta la próxima. Gracias.
siempre.